mining, the most humble and relaxing of professions, sitting at the bottom of a very, very long chain, and of course needing to know your place in the universe alongside with it. This is Kade, and this is going to be a look at a fleet build-up for a miner. We're going to be looking at how you can buy some stuff for yourself, or just flying around alone on your lonesome endeavors. Or if you want to play it, in my opinion, properly for an MMO, of course, joining a group, whether it is just small, medium, or large, there's going to be different roles to be fulfilled. Before looking at these exact details, however, there are a couple of general things I want to make absolutely clear. Number one, you do not need any of these vehicles at all. If you want to become a miner, you can join any organization that does it, and they will be very, very happy to have you, because the simple fact is you're going to be hard struggling to find any organization that does not have more ships and seats available than they have people. So join the group, be social, be likable, be supportive, and you will be flying, operating all sorts of expensive, fancy equipment before you even know it. Secondly, mining is more of a relaxing profession. This is not for your adrenaline junkies, but I think that also makes it very nice, even for those people who are often adrenaline junkies, to just relax a bit. It is a great time to just socialize, be on comms with people, have some chatters, talk about current events, whether in game or real life, while you're just chewing up through the rocks for a couple of hours. And those couple of hours can easily be, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10. It all depends on how dedicated one would be. So with that out of the way, you want to become a miner. How can you start out with? Well, you can start even smaller than we're looking at here. This is of course the rock. Yes, it is very small. But you don't even need that to start with mining. Of course, you can do that with a simple hand tool, and you're going after gem nodes as well, just slightly smaller ones. It is a very humble way to get started, but probably not the most profitable or most easily one to do. I think the whole gem node mining is still a little bit in its infancy in that regard, and could use a little bit of love. Now, if you want to, you could even go ahead with 2 people. Yes, we can just add 2 more wheels to the rock and add a separate seat. Off we go, we can mine even more. Now this looks of course really cool, and there's some places we can do this in, but I really want to see more of this sort of stuff. Like if we can do proper cave exploration with mining vehicles and things and find some really juicy gems, then it's gonna be like, even if it's not the most efficient, it's gonna be a more interesting addition to a mining gameplay loop. However, this is Star Citizen, and that of course means we want to be flying spaceships. The humble MISC Prospector. The Musashi Industrial and Starflight Concern Prospector. The best solo mining ship out there, because guess what? It is the only solo mining ship out there. But don't look down on it because of that. It is actually really, really good, and people have been making a lot of money with this ship in the current versions of the game for quite a while now. Outfitted with its single laser beam and a couple of canisters to store its stuff in, people have been mining things like laranite and contanium to fill up their wallets more and more and more. If you are a solo player, this is also where your journey in the equipment for mining is going to be ending. There is nothing larger that you can really do efficiently, so go look no further. However, if you are going to be looking at joining an organization, you can easily scale things up. While a small organization may still be using prospectors in multiple variations thereof, of course, a medium and large level organization may not see use of the prospector at all, and the main reason for that is the existence of the Argo Mole. The Argo Mole being a 4-person craft with 1 pilot and 4 laser operators, has just a lot of capabilities over a single prospector. Yes, 4 loose prospectors technically may outmine a single mole. However, the mole is able to crack a lot more of the rocks that are available and presented to itself, which means it spends less time looking around for suitable asteroids to mine. Some people may argue that the mining gadgets may bridge this gap. Me personally, however, would argue that the use of the mining gadgets is far too time consuming to be worthwhile in an efficient mining organization, and efficiency is key. You do not want to be spending time in EVA floating around the place, putting stuff on rocks, which is then also being destroyed. So I'm spending time and money to mine a rock in my prospector that a mole would have just cracked on its own. But this one has a really small green zone. Well, get good or just go boom and don't be too close to it. That also works. In many ways, it is just a upgrade over the prospector, and a medium level organization is going to be running these things, and probably most small organizations as well, simply because of those increased capabilities. Now, once you're looking at a medium level organization, you also want to be looking at trying to keep your mining vessels on station a lot more. And to keep mining vessels on station, that means you do not want them flying to stations like we're seeing here. So how do we fix that? Well, of course, we bring along our own refinery. We have the Musashi Industrial and Starflight Concern expands. Yes, it is a dedicated refinery ship, and it will be taking those lovely, lovely crates from your mining ships, sucking them dry into its little refinery, and then putting the nicely refined ore into bags on the side, and from there it may transport it itself to a station or transport said bags over to another vessel that will be transporting them to a station, depending on the scale of your mining organization and operation. And alternatively may also be, of course, the RSI Galaxy. It doubles up on the refining capacity, so it will do it a lot more quickly, has probably more storage for the stuff as well. It will do the same job, it is just going to be a lot more expensive. On the plus side, it does bring a fair amount of decent firepower to have around the place for, base level of protection of your operation, which means that you may be able to get away with using less dedicated security vessels, which means you can have more mining ships, refinery ships, or of course transport ships on station for your operation. Now, if you're going to be looking at, industrial scale mining operations, well, yeah, currently there is only one solution. Say hello to the big daddy of them all, the Orion from Roberts Phase Industries. A capital grade mining ship. We see here, of course, is the old concept. What we know is that it has been enlarged substantially, and I think honestly when we look at value wise compared to everything else in Star Citizen, very important detail, it is still an absolute bargain. A ginormous capital grade mining vessel with its own refinery on board. It is going to be sitting there and chewing through rocks for days, and that's what you want to be doing with it. Ideally, you probably have something like a whole series parked next to it, and you just exchange empty crates for full crates, and then the whole series moves them back to wherever you want to bring them to, and you just keep repeating the process. So, for what we have right now, what we know right now, of course, this is the be all and end all. Now, if I'm going to be looking at some of the speculation on how I can see them expanding the mining gameplay loop around it a little bit, we do of course know that we're going to get another mining ship that's going to fit the gap between the Argo Mole and the Orion, because that gap is really, really large. They called it, I think, a medium mining ship, but I think a better term is really a large mining ship, because the Mole is a medium mining ship. How that's going to look out, how that's going to play out, we just don't know yet. We can speculate. I do think it will have its own refinery space. So it will do refinery on its own. So that's probably going to be something that happens. It may actually run on a similar concept to the Orion. So just like it would be a scaled down Orion in many ways. That's definitely a way to do it. And that also means that you go and keep that sort of same like jettison stuff, keep mining stuff. Alternatively, if they want to do something slightly different, they may give it like a more internal storage, which means I don't have the means to jettison my storage and replace it with new storage in space. And that means that we're going to be flying back and forth ourselves to offload it somewhere and then continue going back to our operational area. So it may become more of like a explorer mining ship, so a nice medium crew vessel that just goes out there and looks for stuff on its own and comes back with it. A little bit of what people thought initially that perhaps the MISC Odyssey could do, but of course the Odyssey only mines Contanium. Another thing that I really hope to see is that we're going to be seeing the downsides of scaling up. So say for example the Orion, its mining lasers are so powerful it could literally destroy certain perhaps more high value elements that you could find in asteroids. So while it can mine really big bulk, it would not be mining the small or high value stuff, which means that people still want to keep operating things like the moles around with them. So any rocks that contain a lot of high value materials would be designated to the mole, and then a lot of the bulk stuff just goes through the Orion to be munched up completely. Doing that also means that there's still a benefit to keeping a refinery ship around. So you would still have like your expanse, or probably more likely the RSI Galaxy, to support the moles in that regard. And finally, I think what would be really, really cool is if we also have the use of those tractor beam ships that we have for like, okay, we can drag ships along, but why couldn't we not be dragging asteroids along? So a Orion would just be moving at a really slow speed through an asteroid belt. It of course has its own tractor beams, but then the other ships with tractor beams could be dragging in large rocks into in the grasp of the Orion, and the Orion could then of course munch those rocks up and not have to be moving around left and right and searching for the stuff. So there would be other ships that are just feeding rocks into the path of the Orion as it consumes everything, and they could of course do the same for like the Argon moles and things like that. I think by doing that you make the whole mining operation again another level of more dynamic, which makes it a little bit more interesting than just sitting there and scanning roids and grab the next one, scanning roids, grab the next one. So multiple people are doing multiple roles. So in a full-on large-scale mining operation, you have people, of course, manning mining ships, and then manning those tractor beam ships, manning refinery ships, transport ships, and probably also a level of security escort. Probably some people scanning the asteroid belt to be like, okay, let's go ahead, map a path through the asteroid belt that's going to be most efficient with most of the rocks in the area that works best for everybody to grab them. It would become a lot more interesting overall. Now this of course is speculations and wishes from my side. That may not happen at all, but it is something to keep in mind and potentially allows for some other ships to be a little bit more interesting alongside with, of course, this mining profession. Now initially I did also speak about the place, of course, in the universe that you have. Like as miners, you are at the bottom of the chain. You're literally mining the raw materials from which everything else is being built. So yeah, you are at the bottom of the chain. You're also very important because without you, nothing will be built. However, your profitability is going to be very much dependent on whatever people want to pay for it. Now, what we do know in the economy of Star Citizen is that it's going to be a very complicated economy system, and unlike most MMOs, the economy is something that we are a part of. We are not the economy. Like most of the economic transactions in Star Citizen will be done by NPCs, the Quanta. And that's why the whole quantum system is so interesting, because it allows for a completely different experience than, say, for example, like EVE Online, where the players are the economy. Everything in that economy is player made, which is really, really interesting. Of course, has its own downsides along with it. For you, however, as a miner, it means that if you're running a solo operation, you're probably going to be traveling back and forth to places where, looks like the most interesting opportunities are towards how much risk you want to take. The same thing that most of the Quanta will be doing. If you're running as you increase the scale of your operation, you're going to be less flexible in moving your operation around. but you still have the ability to move your resources around that you're mining. And I think at that point, you also start to be wanting to look at your statistics. So if you're going to be running an organization, like even small ones, especially if you're going to medium and up, you're going to need your Excel sheets. Grab your Excel sheets, get your data, and start collecting that data and making sure that it is readable and understandable. And that doesn't mean just like look at the prices, like how are the prices moving in all of these different locations, but also why are those prices moving? Is there something like did the Vandal attack there, or did something else happen, or whatever is going on? Maybe a player organizations were battling each other. As much information as that you can find, put that in there. And as you build that up, you start to understand the economy of the whole universe a lot better. And that means you can start to predict certain price spikes. And the moment you can start to predict price spikes in raw materials, you're going to be making more money. Simply because you can move the raw materials into position before the price spike happens. So the moment that spike happens, you're there and you're selling at the highest prices. If you still need to move things to where the price spike is happening, you're going to be arriving there when the spike is already on the decline. So you're probably going to make more money still, but you're not going to be making as much money as that you could have been making. Finally, another alternative which you can do, of course, is operate your own internal economy. This is especially true for large organizations. So they can be running the mining operations not for external sales of the raw resources, but to be using those raw resources internally. At that moment in time, they will probably assign a value to those resources, which is like a medium value for the economy. So whether it's going down or up, you're just saying like, yeah, we consider this ore to be worth this much. Point, the end of it. So when people are mining it and they are effectively selling it to the organization, they're getting paid by the organization in accordance to that value. The organization can then use, of course, those materials, sell them on to internal members, build stuff, etc., etc. Continue on with that. The nice thing that you can do that way, of course, is you are making your organization a lot more, of course, independent and not susceptible to the ups and downs of the economy in the game. Now, of course, if you're going to be stockpiling large amounts of resources, it may occasionally still be interesting to sell them off when the prices are really high, and to buy them again when the prices were really low. But this is something that your organization at its higher level of leadership is going to be deciding to do. But it is something that you need to be thinking about. So even if you're running an organization that is, for example, very much combat focused, say we do get the ability to be, creating stuff for repair, or maybe we can build our own ammunitions and things like that. It may very well be interesting to have a small industrial element attached to your large combat organization, simply to be able to supply yourself with these basic necessities and consumables. By having that, you're not depending on the market to supply them to you. Like maybe you need to go out there and it's a conflict zone and it has been for 5 weeks, which probably means that the local supply of consumables is really low and the prices are going to be sky high. So you either need to be transporting in from other places in the market, but of course, if the prices in that area are sky high, it's going to have a radial effect to all of the places around connected to it. So the further away you go, the cheaper it gets. But if you have your own supply, you don't care. You're just like, okay, we're going to go in there for combat. We bring along our own supplies. And maybe if you have like a lot of supplies, you can also bring in some extras to sell on the market there, because hey, the prices are really high. Why we're not going to make some extra money over this place? So data is going to be really, really critical for your organization, especially medium and larger scale. Smaller ones, ideally I would still say do it, but if you don't have the time or the desire to, you can probably get away with it. Just know you're going to be losing some efficiency. So yeah, that is the mining operations and the fleets that you can have right now. The larger you go, the more complicated the whole structure gets. If you're solo, you're flying a prospector. If you're a small organization, you're probably flying prospectors and moles, and you may add like a refinery ship to the mix. If you go to a medium level organization, You're going to be flying probably whatever's going to come out, moles still, and refinery ships, and you may also start adding your own transport in there. So you have more flexibility in that regard. And if you're running a large-scale organization, then you're going to be running capital-grade mining ships, smaller mining ships, scanning ships, tractor-beam ships, transport ships, refining ships, combat ships, the whole 9 yards. Because you just need everything to keep that operation running as smoothly as possible, as long as possible. So final thing I will say on it is, if you're running an organization that is going to be based on mining, like of course you're going to be running your organization operations, so you're going to be like, hey everybody, this day there, go over there, you know, just like people used to do with raiding times and stuff like that. I will say, however, it's always a good idea to maintain a sort of like standing operation. So that means, like, if you know your player base is on around certain times, just have something happening all the time for them. So, you know, have a designated area and just be like, hey, just keep mining there, even if they're just like, do it for your own, split up your own stuff and whatever, or you can sell it to York, whatever you want to agree upon. People can do it. And that means that whenever people are, you know, online, they can just hop in and do the mining and make some money, which is of course what people want to be doing when they're running mining operations. It's like, yeah, kind of want to get paid. Like a lot of people do something like mining to fund other things that they like to do in their gameplay, because mining is a very good guaranteed source of income, while a lot of other gameplay options are far less guaranteed income and may actually cost you money. So keep that in mind. As long as you can keep people actively mining for you and make it easy on them, they'll probably be mining a lot for you. So if you have a good steady price, you're always buying the ores that's agreed upon rate, even if they mine it outside of operations. As an organization, you're going to win from that. So yeah, that's mining. I hope this has been somewhat interesting. Again, it is just off the cuff, pretty much live single take recording here. I do not have editing software yet. New job just started, so trying to get into that, and hopefully at some point I will get back to some more nicely edited content. What I probably will not be doing, however, I've decided, is doing scripted content. I've done it a couple of times, but simply put, the amount of time I need to write a script and then record it properly and, you know, make sure that everything is in there, I find it is not really my style, because I'm just much better to go off the cuff and just go over these things, because a lot of the stuff that I have always has been in my head, so in my mind, and just go out there and just talk about it. So trying to keep it a little bit more structured. I hope that worked a little bit in this video, and you know, keep the off-topic tensions to a limit, but of course at times they will happen because there are certain links and elements to that. So yeah, just to be clear upon what you can expect from me in the future. For the next one of the fleets, we're probably going to be looking at the big daddy of them all. I think I'm going to be looking at some of the combat operation stuff now. That's going to be a very long video, so I'm probably going to be splitting that up into different segments, because already this one just for mining, and we got very few ships around them. We're already going over like towards 25 minutes. So with combat, there are so many ships out there, so many things that you can do that are combat related. I'm going to be splitting those up. There's going to be overlap in those. That's going to happen because like a lot of the ships are applicable to different sorts of roles. But I'm probably going to be looking really at, okay, you're going to be trying to do this sort of operations with your combat fleet, looking at acquiring these sort of ships. How exactly work out, as I said, because these are just single takes, recordings, I have to see, because it depends really on how my mind and I can see the flow in there. But I hope to be bringing them out from now on, but about every week, perhaps. I've got 1 day off a week now, so trying to use that for writing and then also recording one of these videos. No promises yet, time will tell. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see each other next time. Bye bye.